Hi, my name's Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the users of BAS Off to show you guys how to start up with single touch payroll in BAS Off. So BAS Off is a new software and it does things by single touch payroll. So um, I've already set up this organization and I did a video on how to set up the employee and had a little bit of a look at the accounts and tax codes. So if you didn't see that, go back and have a look at that. Otherwise we'll get straight into the payroll. So now single touch payroll gets lodged to the ATO, so we use this concept called batches. We had this in the previous version of the software, but it wasn't, let's say, often used. But since we don't want to lodge each payslip individually, we're going to create a batch of payslips. So go in there. Now it is the 4th of April 2019. So if you are switching to single touch payroll or BAS Off at this time, one thing to keep in mind is that single touch payroll actually lodges your year-to-date figures, not just the figures for each individual payroll. So I'll go for a new batch, but in this first batch I'm just going to put my year-to-date. So March year-to-date. Just put the status to created on the batch. Payment date, look, it's not a real payment date. Just put any date, 1/7/2018 through to 30th of the 6th 2009. Okay, save the batch, go to batch transactions, add payslip. Great, so select the employee. You'll notice that it brings in all the employees' details. Okay, now we want to just put normal time. Okay, keep it simple. This is just an initial demonstration of the payroll. Now I'm not going to put the quantity and rate because you might not have looked that up. You don't really need it. All you need is the total year-to-date earnings. So, you know, let's say that's $30,000. Okay, and the system is automatically calculating these things. Now, alright, it's not going to calculate tax correctly. In this case, it's gone to the longest pay frequency, which is quarterly, but you know, we're entering the year to date. You need to change this to the actual tax that was deducted. So I'm going to click override tax calculation and change this to it's a minus figure. Let's say minus 4,000. Okay. Superannuation may well be correct. However, if the employee had some months where they worked and it was less than the 450 for the month, then they wouldn't have got super. So it's not going to necessarily be a straight 9.5% of that year-to-date earnings. So let's override that, and let's just say it's actually, you know, 2700. Alright, sweet. So there you go. Save that. Now you would repeat that for each employee that you had throughout the year. To do that, you click this button back to list, and you would click add another payslip. And I just want to give you guys a really quick overview of how to do it, so I'm not going to bore you with that. Okay, now let's go back to the batches and add another batch. So actually April is a really, like, the first month in the quarter, first pay of the month is a really nice time to start, because you would get your month to date right. If you use this software to submit your June BAS, it's correct. Things like that. If you start towards the end of April, you would have to do this a little bit differently, because you don't want this year to date for March to be entered, or the year to date to be entered in April. So you don't want a year to date to the 15th of April, because that stuffs up the month to date for April for superannuation calculation purposes, and also will stuff up your June BAS. Okay, so keep in mind you want to have a year to date to the start of the quarter, and then simple way is just to enter any pay slips from the start of the quarter onwards into the software. So anyway, let me go and do the new batch, and this would be the first one we would lodge. Now this could be the pay for the last week, which includes part of March, but it's a payday in April, so that makes it an April pay. Okay, so let's say the date, alright, obviously that's the 4th of April, so we're doing it for payment today. It could be the I suppose if our pay week ends on the 31st, this last Sunday, we were a bit slow in paying, but let's say that's what it was. So we're going from the 25th through to the 31st. Normally you'd pay that, say, the Tuesday, but so this would be, I like to say, pay from 25, or you could just pay ended, week ended 31 March. So it's actually, all the work is actually done in March, but the payment is in April. Okay, so save that batch, go to batch transactions, and add a pay slip. Okay, so select the employee, and again we're paying them some normal time. Now this time we might want to use the quantity and rate to pay them. You could do as before and just put in the gross amount if they were on, say, a fixed salary, or you can use this quantity and rate. So anyway, let's say they work like 10 hours. Okay, so the system is saying 200 gross, taxing them on a weekly time frame, because it's brought in the week dates that we've set up on the batch, and it's got zero tax. So obviously, like, it's just 200 for a week is a small amount. They claim the tax-free threshold, so it's zero. The other thing here to notice is that superannuation is also zero, and that is because they're under 450 for the month. Okay, so now let's say they go over that, so let's just change this for a second. If they're over that, then yeah, you can see that it's bringing in some super and calculating the pay as you go. Okay, so all these other details are coming in to the pay slip, and you could just save this and then go and lodge the batch. But I just want to demonstrate one little aspect here and put it back to the 10 hours to show you guys how the system handles this situation where there's zero super, because we get a lot of questions. A lot of people like override that, and they go, "Oh look, I don't want to. I don't want them to see a zero there. I know we're going to pay them another couple times this month, and that'll be over." And so they override it, and they go and put, the $19 super. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it as is and save this payslip. Okay, now going back to the list and back to the batch. Now we could go and lodge this batch, and to do that you just click on go to STP lodge, and go and tick your declaration box. If you're a tax agent, you'll have this section appear as well. If you're a tax agent, you do have to tick the payer declaration box and put in the name of the person who has agreed to that declaration. Then you tick your own box, put in your name, rekey in your FAS identity password, and click lodge. Okay, this is not a real payroll, so I don't want to lodge this. So I'm going to go back to the batch list, and okay. So the next thing I wanted to do was show you guys what happens when you do the next payroll. So let's say a new batch. Now this week, say we paid them a bit late last week because it was the 4th, and we're going to pay on the Tuesday this time, and the pay week goes from the Monday through to the Sunday. So we just put another thing there, week and did 7 April, and status is created. When you lodge the batch, it will turn up to be lodged status, or if you've got errors, it'll go back to create and you can go and fix the errors. Okay, save that batch, go to batch transactions and add a payslip for our employee. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up to the top here, select the employee, put in normal time, and let's say he's now worked this week 20 hours. Okay, so that's 400 gross. It's actually pushed him just or her just into the point where pay as you go is being withheld. Superannuation is $57. So just doing a quick calculation, plus 400 times 0.095 is 38. So it's calculating 57. Why? Well, because it uses this month to date to calculate it, because whilst they have to go over the 450 to get their superannuation, they do get it from $1 all the way. So 600 times 0.095 is your $57. Alrighty, so now it's brought all your year-to-date figures in. Actually, I'll just point out one thing with these year-to-date. These are year-to-date figures, and this pay event info here with all these details is what gets sent with your single touch payroll lodgement. Okay, the rest of these details up here do not actually get sent. Okay, so that stuff does not get sent to the ATO. This pay event info does get sent to the ATO. So review that, make sure it's correct. I mean, you're going to review the other stuff and make sure it's correct as well. Anyway, let me save this. Back to batch list and back to batch edit. Okay, go to STP lodge. I have to scroll back up to the top. Righty-o. So now we've got all these details here. Right. Now, in this section, or in this sort of header form for the lodgement, there is a couple things I'll just point out. You've got your payday, obviously. Payslip count is 1. Okay, there's only one payslip here. Payroll totals. Okay, we paid this employee on this payroll $400 and there was $9 tax. So these payroll totals are just your total for the week's pay. They're not year to date. Okay, I just point that out because people will go, well, is it year to date or was it the payroll? Well, you know, it's a bit of both, because on this form here it's the single pay, and on the employees it's the year to date. Alright, well, you know, if you're happy with that, you'd go and tick the declaration box and then go and lodge it. And I'm not going to do that, obviously, because that's a not a real payroll. Alright, well, that's a quick intro to how to process a payroll in BAS Off. Thanks for watching.